Hello, Zinger Nation. This is Justin Roberti here on this fine Wednesday. Yes, we have moved to Wednesdays instead of Fridays because Fridays, I think, are a whole bummer to try and get people to join us for a little business show after hours. So here we are, 5 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays. I hope that time slot works out better for everyone. I'm excited today because I've been meaning to start talking about DeFi GameFi. As I think I might have mentioned before, I'm a dev on a team that's doing an MMO, and so I'm really interested in knowing we've got all of these Web3 investments pouring into the GameFi space, trying to work out a play-to-earn model. I'm here for it. I'm just a believer that the projects in question should have ideally a working game, or at least a critical path to getting one, and that game should be playable as a game, not just as a sort of weird experimental investment vehicle and reason to purchase NFTs. But feeling pretty good today. If Terra 2 can make its announcement so quickly, then there's hope for all of us, isn't there? Actually, I've reached out to my friends at BNB Chain, formerly BSC or Binance Smart Chain, because I would love to get a sense of what they're doing, trying to help out and work with the people who are formerly developing on Terra. I heard a similar claim. Oh, and Polygon was on our show on Friday. They actually said the same thing. But if you've ever thought you've made a mistake that you couldn't come back from, here we have a Terra network ready to expand, and it's good. They were a good project. They had smart things going on. I'm here for it. All about second chances. Why not? But anyway. In the meantime, please like and subscribe and leave your comments, ask some questions. If you'd be inclined to ask some questions today, that'd be fantastic. We have with us Michael Rubinelli. He is Chief Gaming Officer at WAC Studios, and I am here for it. I want to hear about games developed in this space, and we're going to go ahead and bring Michael on. So, hello, Michael.
Justin, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Good. My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about, Blockchain Brawlers. Is that correct?
It is. It's absolutely correct. Blockchain Brawlers is the first game from WAC Studios in terms of building a Web3 experience for players. And, the WAX blockchain is number one. It's the unquestioned number one gaming technology in the world of Web3. Unquestioned, it's, instant transactions. It's no gas fees. It's scale state transactions a second. Like if you're going to build a game on a technology, on a Web3 technology at layer one, we suggest that WAX is the only real viable solution. And instead of sort of saying that and kind of beating our chest and trying to generate a lot of press, we thought, let's back up our words with building our own Web3 gaming experiences, put out there and show the world what it can be like. And that's where Blockchain Brawlers came from, along with a lot of other games that we're building kind of in parallel.
Well, that's cool. I mean, for those who have followed the big gaming publishing houses over the while, typically Nintendo is when they come out with a new console, they're coming out with the best games for that console. So maybe Blockchain Brawlers will have a similar kind of blending of interface and capabilities of the interface or the UX and the game overall. Now I imagine here I'm gonna put up some pictures and we can talk about them. Okay, so here we go. Blockchain Brawlers. Obviously, it has a very WWE kind of inspired theme, and I imagine all of these guys are little individual characters that you purchase as NFTs. Am I correct there?
You are correct. They all have backstories. They're very much inspired by kind of the real world kind of analogs that are, whether it's WWE or it's the NWA or the All American Wrestling. It's clear where the kind of the aspiration came from. And candidly, we were all wrestling fans growing up. And when I worked at THQ, I built a lot of great wrestling content. It was, talk about a vacation. Like, we need you to build wrestling games for the next few years. I'm like, really? You're going to pay me? Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, I'm in. Well, you have to work with The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin and all these childhood heroes you may have. I'm like, yeah, I'm still in, and I can't believe I'm stealing money from you to do this.
Well, that's cool. I mean, so how did that work? How were you consulting with The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin on the making of this?
Yeah, there's a couple different kind of, vectors that we would work them on. One is we'd work with them on kind of building out their models. We do full kind of 360 body scans to make sure when we're building 3D models, kind of, the size, proportion, dimensions, textures are all as accurate as they could be, given kind of the limitations of what was then Xbox One and then Xbox 360 and, PS1, PS2, PS3. But then it was also kind of look and feel. Like we wanted to talk to them about what the vibe of the game was. And it's really, really funny. There's this kind of, I'm sure it's deleted by now, but The Rock left a voicemail on our assistant producer's phone. He said, I just got done working with Acclaim and they're not building the world's most electrifying, sports entertainment product in the world. I really look forward to what you're doing, like kind of disparaging our competition because Acclaim was losing the license and we were taking it over. And so it was clear that it was important to even The Rock at the time, even though he wasn't the IP holder per se, we were going to get his name, image, and likeness rights. And so he wanted to be affiliated with a game that kind of represented his very kind of over the top, tongue-in-cheek spirit. And so whether it was cutting promos, finishing moves, kind of animations, it had to really embody what The Rock thought sports entertainment was about. And what ends up happening is when you get their buy-in emotionally, right? Then when they go out and they do promos, whether they're appearing on Jimmy Kimmel, they're doing a movie, a commercial, whatnot, they'll talk about these other projects they're involved in, and they'll talk about it in a really glowing way. So they kind of earn media that's generated from making sure they buy into what you're doing and there's real authenticity to the project. Like that goes a million miles away. I'll share with you a really funny story. So when I worked at EA and I was a producer on John Madden Football, I built what I thought was an amazing game, so much fun. And the thing that always killed me is when launch happened, or even before launch, all these celebrities and sports stars would call us up. And they'd say, where's my free copy? Where's my free copy? And my wife was my then girlfriend, now wife, was in PR. And her job was to send, Mike Myers and Will Smith and all these, Chris Cornell and all these really famous people copies of the latest version of Madden. I'm like, these people make tens of millions of dollars a year. Why are we sending them a free game? Like it just, I couldn't get my head around. I was new, I was young, I didn't understand how the world of PR worked. And so one night we're up late and we're watching, Jay Leno, and Terry Bradshaw was on and then Will Smith was on. And then Jay Leno says to Will Smith, he said, oh, do you guys know each other? Will Smith goes, yeah, we know each other. Terry Bradshaw goes, we've never met. He goes, are you kidding me? He said, I just got the new Madden 95 sent to me, and I play with you, and the Steelers kind of 78 team is so awesome, and you can't be stopped, and you're incredible. And like, he spent 5 minutes talking about how great Madden was, this massive national audience. And my wife just turns to me, she goes, and that's why we send Will Smith a free copy.
Sure.
I'm like, okay. Yeah. Point, you learn as you go, and so it was
they kind of get used to the swag too. Though there are lots of parts of all parts of the entertainment industry do that to some degree.
Very much so, yeah, and with good reason. They're tastemakers, they're influencers, and it doesn't matter, they can afford it. They want to be treated special because they know they have sway with their audience. So now we just call them influencers, and anybody on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook can be an influencer. But once upon a time, the influencers were celebrities, and their platform was kind of national or syndicated television shows.
So when we look at characters that look suspiciously like Roddy Piper, for example, are we to assume then that you have who have you worked with in order to be able to have permission to use their likeness? And didn't anybody in NFTs let you know that nobody asked permission, that everybody just completely ganks each other's IP and likeness without any apologies?
Yeah, I believe that. I come from the world of licensed gaming content. So I've Rugrats, Scooby-Doo, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, doesn't matter. Like I am so dyed in the wool all about getting the license and getting the rights and using that to your advantage. We actually didn't get any likeness rights for any brawlers in the game except for Ric Flair, who you can buy. There were 100 Ric Flairs that were released that we did a special promotion with him. He was just absolutely amazing. I mean, at 72, he was like 72 going on 32. He's just incredible. The photo shoot that we did with him, the video shoot we did with him, you thought he was, in his prime. Like, it's really amazing. I'm not 72, but the energy that he displayed that morning doing that shoot, I'm like, where does this even come from? I mean, God bless him. You can understand why he's this generational talent. But we did not, we weren't really inspired by anybody kind of famous in that regard. I mean, wrestling has certain tropes that you rely upon that are very generic. And again, we sort of played to those tropes, I think, really, really well without kind of stepping over the line of infringing on rights.
So, I mean, sir, you play in archetypes, and in a lot of ways, when you look at, WWE back when it was WWF, was spoken fairly about in fairly unflattering terms by circles outside of its fans. In a way, if I were them, I'd feel kind of validated by the blending of sort of reality, like sports and sort of reality TV with some soap opera story elements worked in. Like, I feel like the media has caught up with them a little bit. But so tell me, how are the mechanics working? You have obviously already done your your NFT drop, and it seems like your NFT is largely about getting different iterations of base characters that you're playing. Like, how are the tokenomics and the NFTs playing into overall gameplay?
Yeah, look, I think it's a great question, and really, it's we could just spend a whole hour on kind of the genesis of this idea and what have we learned. I mean, we've learned so many great lessons, and I think the thing that you'll see us do is every feature we release, every pack set that we do, every auction that we hold, we say, what are the lessons that we're building upon? So we do everything better every single step of the way. And we're very conscientious when we go in with something. We say, here are the 3 to 5 things we're testing. Here's what the assumed outcomes are, because you don't go into a test without assumptions, right? And here's how we perform relative to kind of those expectations.
Okay.
I will tell you that I think that we launched kind of Blockchain Brawlers maybe a little bit prematurely. There was all this fervor around kind of Axie Infinity and Farmer's World and Alien World and all these games that had a certain set of kind of mechanics that worked well. And we thought we can give a much better version of that. Sure. But we can also build, because we're classic game makers, kind of, 20 plus years of making great games. We know how to put them on a path to, at the end of the day, you're actually taking all these things that you've done in this early phase as an early supporter, right? It's just mining. But there's a PvP game here, which is super compelling. And it's designed by Richard Garfield, who's just creatively just brilliant. And like, there's a real game here. And trust us, it'll be fun. Like, let's just go on this ride together. And what happened is, we got 100% of our audience was all gamblers and speculators for the most part. I don't mean that to be dismissive, but they weren't in there like,
you had a degen audience, and have they dropped off since everything tanked out in the past couple of weeks?
Oh, it's every single day. Where's my ROI? When Lambo? We're all going to make it. Like, wait a minute, we're building a fun to play game. Like, we don't care. We're so maniacally focused on the paradigm that we've been taught to focus on the ROI count, right? We've been taught to focus on the money. And really, if you talk to us about things that aren't that, like, we actually don't care. Like, and I'm being a bit of a generalist, and it's maybe potentially evocative, but it's largely true. And
no, you're right. When I talk about NFTs, price is literally the last thing I discuss. Whether it's my column or value, it's kind of the least interesting part of the overall project. I want to hear about a project with a working use case.
Right. So we weren't armed with that information. Again, we learned a lot kind of early on, and kind of hindsight's always 20/20. But the thing we've started to do now is, knowing that that's what this audience is, now the features that we're rolling out, the things that we're doing, take those kind of mindsets into consideration as we figure out how to give them reasons to engage. We try to figure out how to give them more utility, more value, more depth, more interesting choices that matter. That don't just sort of always factor into, how does this improve my performance, my ROI? And so giving them things that show that we listen to them builds credibility, show them that we do things that, we fix problems that they have, or that we're a willing kind of recipient to their input. Again, we're building a relationship with our community. The thing that I learned, which is interesting about esports, because I used to run an esports company before this, is that massive esports players actually only play esports about 30% of the time, but 70% they're kind of spending, kind of adjacent esports things. They're watching streamers, they're reading about, kind of loadouts or how to optimize builds. Like, there's all these things they do. And the same is true for these NFT gamers, right? They're only going to spend a certain amount of time actually playing the game, but the rest of it's theory crafting. And it's in building community is such a central part to success of your title. If you can't build a credibility and equity of your community, if you can't come off as authentic, then you're never going to build a meaningful audience. If you can't build a meaningful audience, you're never going to build a meaningful game. And the thing that I did on day one is, they're like, are you going to go public with who you are? I'm like, well, of course I am. Like, well, you're going to get socially engineered. I'm like, right, but I need to tell them who I am, so they know that when I say something, it's not me. It's like, oh, random developer in a part of the country that we can't tell you, doing things that we can't tell you what they've done. Like, this is me. I'm here. I'm in the open. Like, look up my gameology. I'm not going to hide from hard questions. I'm not going to block you if you have an opinion that's different from mine. Like, let's talk about this. Let's build this together. Because the key to all this, by the way, this is central to everything that we do, is that we have very much this many, many year perspective on this project. We want this thing to run for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 years. And if in month 2 you're not happy, that's totally fine. Because in month 22 you may be happy, or in month 12 you may be happy, but maybe month 2 isn't what you want. But we're here, and know that we're not going away anytime soon. So when you talk about tokenomics, a lot of times people go, oh, I need a tokenomics report. Well, what for? Well, I want to understand the token distribution. Like, Well, we're whacked. We're actually not doing an ICO, so that doesn't matter. We're giving all the tokens to the players for the most part. We don't have like private investors that are getting a secret drop. Like there's all these things that have come before us, right, that are really potentially damaging to the project that players are wary of. They've got this scar tissue. Like, I didn't know half the tokens are going to the dev team and they're going to sell them off. They're going to make bank and I'm going to get left holding the bag. Like, we're wax. We're $1 billion company. 80% goes to the players, 20% goes to promotional and user acquisition. Like, that's our tokenomics report. Do you want to know about, block emissions? Do you want to know about deflationary measures? Like, do you want to know about, ICO, IGO, IDO? Like that just doesn't exist in our world. And so the things we've been taught to ask for, we're not going to give you because we actually don't think they do you any good to have them.
Well, I'll ask questions that I always ask. So what I'm wondering is who has played this thing up till now that is not one of your devs?
What do you mean? So we have 2,000 daily active players.
You have 2,000 daily active players. So you're fully out of beta. It's fully launched and it's available.
It's still in beta. It's still in quote unquote beta because it's not the full PvP, world building, guild generating, guild running competition. Like it's just this mining phase, right? So players are coming in, they're acquiring their NFTs, they're building a currency, they're building their roster, they're improving their assets, they're upgrading kind of gear, they're upgrading rings, they're upgrading brawlers. So there are very much these progression loops that live that are very gamified things to do in the games, right?
Right. No, I got it. So you can craft, you can level up your wrestler, your brawler.
Gear, your rings that you use, yes.
But it's what you're like. What about player? What about PvP? What about?
It's all PvE for now. PvP is coming. Okay. It's coming in the next few months. Like I said, Richard Garfield designed our PvP mechanic. He's like I said, he needs no introduction. He is absolute brilliant guy, and he's actually delivered us the playable prototype last week, and I played it. And I'm telling you, it is unbelievable. It's really fun, and it's.
Manus plays and they're not a dev. Good. It's good to see, Manus. I want to make sure that we have a game that's actually being played. So people are not only leveling up and crafting, they're actually right now it's against computer only, but that part of the game is in place. Like how much game do you have? Any mission-based gameplay, any special event-based gameplay, or are you just kind of at the point with your base level, kind of got like one arena? What have you got going on?
It's literally it's mining a currency, our Brawl token and our gold NFTs. And the reason why you want to mine is because when you get into PvP, right, that's where the joy of this game is. And you'll need to have these currencies and you'll need to have NFTs on your roster. And you'll need to have all these assets that you're accumulating now. So when you go into the PvP phase, you're very well equipped and well positioned to have success there because in our mind, right, that's where the best prizes come from. That's where the best experiences come from. That's where this game really, really shines. So imagine a world where you're now playing the PvP version. Think of it like Texas Hold'em or Guts or anything like that. Like this is card-based, tension-filled, like risk reward, read your opponent, what are the odds, and all. Like there's real tension there in that gameplay moment. Now imagine that's being live streamed to the entire world, and it's done in a very esports way. And kind of the prizes, the vanity, the swag, the flexing, all those things that tie to that live in that global competition. And that global competition will have a pay-per-view feel, right? We'll look at Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, things like that, like every month. There's this big tentpole, and you want to be a part of that because that's where the community is, that's what the narrative is, and that's where really all like the holy cow, I'm a part of this movement. I'm part of the conversation. Like that's what this is going to be. Right now, you're just kind of building and creating your foundation. So when that happens, you're as well positioned as possible. You don't have to sit there and scramble, go, holy cow.
You can actually interact in some way. Is there anything built into the well, first of all, tell me about the NFTs. Do they just represent different brawlers? Is that what the NFTs are for? Can you get NFTs that are arenas or belts?
Yeah. So if you can imagine, we very much map to standard gaming constructs, right? So you have common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, right? The color scheme's the same. So gray for common, green for uncommon, blue for rare, purple for epic, and then orange, red, gold, what have you for legendary. Like it's a very gaming centric thing. So if you know gaming, you understand rares, you'll feel very much right at home. We do the same thing with the rings, and we do the same thing with the gears. And so they all have rarity constructs as well. And obviously what you want is you want to have 8 legendary brawlers in the legendary ring using legendary gear. Like that's the best of the best of the best. Now that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. But if you get to that point and that's what your roster construct looks like, you are making so much of our token currency that when PvP comes in, you will be a force to be reckoned with, because you won't be gated from what you can do because you haven't accumulated that currency. Like you won't be prohibited from really, taking part in the most enjoyable part of this game.
Right. So, the games that I'm used to participating in, I like MMOs.
What's your favorite?
My favorite? Oh, the one I'm developing, Ship of Heroes right now.
Okay. What's your favorite MMO that you haven't developed?
World of Warcraft. I spent a lot of time with World of Warcraft, for example.
What did you like the best about it?
Well, a lot of people really get into the team-based play, but for me, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since I was like 9 years old. So I'm kind of a sucker for anything that's sort of like got mechanics that are related to that kind of game. But I was a pencil and dice kind of player before this stuff ever came along. So, who are you appealing to now? Who is this game comparable to? Like right now, how are the mechanics looking? Manus, do you have fun playing it? Let us know. You can drop over on the on the comments, since we've got an actual player watching right now. Where are we in terms of that? And like, where is this going to go?
Look, I think, our stated goal with our MVP, which was a beta launch, was to deliver the most playable version of a game in very much in gaming terms. So the things that you won't see us talk about, like I play a lot of games my entire life, obviously, and I play a lot of, P2E games. And the thing that was really frustrating to me as a classic game developer was I came into a world and I didn't know how to interact. It's like, okay, I'm on the website, like, there's no good tutorial. You're speaking to me in a language I don't understand. You talk about deposits and withdrawals and missions and tokenomics. Like, I just want to play the GD game, right? Like, how do I do that? Like, this should be so drop dead simple. And so one of the goals that we had is we want to transcend the existing kind of crypto bro audience, right? And how do we speak to gamers? Well, we speak to them in a language they understand. So it's all about kind of, your in-game inventory. It's about leveling up. It's about crafting. It's terms that they're very comfortable with. It's not FI at all, even though the backbone of a lot of this is FI. So we do have deposits. We have a wallet. We have withdrawals. We have exchanges. We have scrapes. We have all these things that you're used to in the FI world. But one of the things that we said on day one is we're going to build a game that's very comfortable. If you come in, you know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, we keep you on the rails until you're comfortable with what those loops are, right? So you've
made a very important upfront decision to require wallet integration in order to be able to begin interacting with the platform.
Right. And especially the Wax Cloud wallet, by the way, which has over 13 million users now, because it's very Web2, right? It's all the single sign-ons, like, oh, Facebook Connect or my Google Auth or my Discord credentials. That gets me a Wax Cloud wallet with 2 clicks. Oh, that was easy. That's not MetaMask, right? MetaMask, you have to have like a PhD in, electrical engineering to figure out how to use that thing. But, Wax Cloud wallet, we have 13 million users because it's very Web2. It's very double click and you're in. And making that is, again, part of the onboarding, part of the journey. Things that are, difficult, or things that are easy to explain are easy to understand. And the Wax Cloud wallet is very frictionless. Therefore, blockchain brawlers and the adoption of it is also very frictionless, and that's completely intentional.
So I've had Polygon on and Polkadot, or I guess I haven't had Polkadot on, but I've had them.
Right.
I've talked to them in the column. This show is kind of a live action version of my column in a lot of ways. I have not spoken to Wax. What is the upside of Wax for you?
Wow, great question. I will tell you. I feel like that's a hanging curve right in the
we work for Wax, so I guess I just that was just a little slow ball I've thrown inside there.
Yeah, look, there is no disputing Wax is the #1 blockchain in the world for gaming. Like, it's unquestioned. Like, nothing compares. If you go to DappRadar, if you go to any third-party site that tracks number of transactions per day or transactions per second, Wax does more transactions on the gaming side than any other blockchain in the world, bar none. Like, the rest of the blockchain combined is less transactions a day than we do in total. So we do easily kind of 20 to 25 million transactions a day. Everybody else does around 16 to 18. So we're the #1 blockchain in the world in terms of transactions. We're the #1 blockchain in the world in terms of DAU. We recently replaced the Binance Smart Chain as having more, daily active uniques than they were at 660,000 the other day. They're around kind of 512. So we have more, audience members. We do more transactions, and all that's all well and good. But if we're kind of burdened by or saddled with surge pricing, that's kind of not good because you're exacerbating the problem, right? We actually don't have surge pricing. There are no gas fees on Wax. Like, Wax is all about it's delegated proof of stake. First of all, it's not proof of work. And that DPoS model allows us to do transactions that are effectively, such a low cost, right? They're always profitable. And because we can service 8,000 transactions a second, when you buy an NFT or you make a purchase, you get it within seconds. If in worst case, you maybe get it in a minute or two. On Ethereum-based chains, AVAX, Polygon, what have you, take your layer 2 of choice. If you have that surge kind of pricing model, people think, oh, the gas fees, that's the worst part. Like, well, maybe, but if it's a collection, you don't really care if you get it in 2 or 3 days later. But if you're a gamer, right, and you want to beat a boss, you want to clear an instance, you want to, win a PvP competition or a squad-based competition, you want to get that BFG 9000, you want to get it right now because you're so goddamn mad, and you want to buy it. It's like, you'll have it in 2 to 3 hours, or maybe 2 to 3 days, but eventually you'll get it. Almost like this forced technological cooling off period, right, which is such a non-starter for gamers, because we're very impulsive, right? We're very emotionally kind of, like you can,
we're impatient, we're complaining
on your fear of missing out and your need to be compulsive to monetize you. Now imagine being on a chain that says you'll have this NFT in 3 days, or you'll have it even in like 15 minutes, or you'll have it in an hour. Like, that's just a non-starter. You just don't have that with Wax. So instantaneous transactions that are low cost to effectively being free for, every minute of every day, like, that is where games are going to come and utility is going to live forever.
But for what it's worth, I believe Tezos kind of says the same thing, right? And they're right. In terms of if I want a network to choose to be cheaper and faster than in terms of transactions, right, I would use Ethereum. There are lots of competitors out there. Algorand says the same thing. But what I'm wondering is, first of all, are you doing one instance for the whole game? So when you say 2,000 concurrent players, you have 2,000 players in the same instance, or are you kind of dividing it up into pods? So, so the $1,000 question to me, are you hosting that in AWS servers? How are you doing that?
We're hosting in AWS.
Okay. I mean, I think that we're going for a multi-chain world as it is, but I've been wondering who's going to handle this scale. But in my flippancy, I keep asking everyone at all these networks I'll talk to, when are we going to get blockchain Fortnite? When are we going to get something that can support on that scale with that level? We poured $1 billion into Web3 investment into GameFi in January, and yet here we sit without let's be real. I'm sorry, Axie Infinity. I love you. You're great. But it costs a minimum of $900 to get started playing their little Pokemon game. And it doesn't compare favorably to games I played 15 years ago that were Flash-based in Facebook. So when are we going to get something that has some real gameplay and is reflective amount of the amount of human genius and money going into this innovative space?
Yeah, I will answer that question. Can I go back to the whole cross-chain interoperability and where's this world going, and scalability and all those fun things you talked about? Look, that's largely true. And again, it maybe seems a little bit ironic, or maybe your timing is just absolutely incredible. But yesterday, we announced a cross-chain promotion between Sunflower Land and Million on Mars. So Sunflower Land is a game that famously melted down the Polygon chain because Polygon could not handle the traffic. January 6th, you can look it up this year. An article had said, gas fees and kind of surge pricing, and just like they could not interact. And it wasn't like we have to put the game into maintenance mode. Like we had to put this game into stasis mode and to figure out how to kind of re-engineer things so it could actually work on the chain. They couldn't scale past. They didn't have even 500,000 DAU, and they could not operate their game. And we got a call right away saying, hey, what's it going to take for us to move this #1 game on Polygon to Wax? Like, they knew we were the solution, right? And we said, look, we're C++. It's too much of a heavy lift, most likely. You have to be down for 3 months. Like, yeah, that's a non-starter. I mean, there was very gracious conversation. But yesterday we announced a cross-chain promotion with Sunflower Land and Million on Mars, and they're both doing interoperability between those two games. So you've got a Wax game, which is Million on Mars, which is a tremendous play to earn game or play and to own game, which really is I think the North Star for what games are going to look like in the future. It's all about value and utility and self-sustaining economies. Like, if you haven't played Million on Mars, it's brilliant. It's designed by a guy named Eric Bethke, who was one of the best kind of game operators in the world at Zynga when they were really crushing it a few years ago on social. Like, he's brilliant. And Sunflower Land, which has an amazing experience on the Polygon chain. So we're bringing high quality kind of Polygon users to understand the scalability and the ease of use on Wax. And then the Million on Mars guys are taking their players and doing in-game kind of chapters and content curation that drives them into Sunflower Land. and there's going to be an exchange of about 50 to 60,000 players both ways. It's funny because I think Adam Hannigan, the CEO at Sunflower Land, said, we're going to bring Wax to its knees. And they're like, are you kidding? Like, this is not a layer 2 based on Ethereum. This is Wax. Like, do your homework. We're going to crush it. And so that interoperability is literally.
That's cool to hear. Maybe we'll have Wax back to talk about that a little bit too. That sounds really good. Everybody, by the way, hit like, hit subscribe. Let's give it up for Michael, who, this is good. I asked some aggressive questions around this particular issue because really I'm tired of talking to people who conflate what is currently true with what is supposed to be true according to the roadmap 2 years from now. What engine did you develop this in?
So this is all kind of homebrew tech. So the front end was, I think we React.js, and the back end smart contract was, again, just sort of our own custom blockchain work. By the way, the other interesting thing you talk about, kind of mainstream adoption and acceptance. Yeah. One thing we know is that traditional gaming press hates to write about play to earn. They hate to write about Web3 gaming. Like a lot of TechCrunch, a lot of publications, a lot of outlets will not write about it because they don't think it's real, right? For the same reasons you're asking me when are real games coming, journalists in the space won't write about it. So this
they will if we work it. Yeah, if you work it out, if you work it out to the point where I can play missions or mission-based content that's actually novel and fun, not just grinding, right? Because World of Warcraft is really the progenitor, as far as I'm concerned, of Bitcoin and all of crypto, because before there was Bitcoin, there was Brock Pierce and also what's his name, Steve Bannon, not together but separately, who were selling Bitcoin gold or selling World of Warcraft gold online, in-game currency a trade. That's kind of what is the spiritual predecessor of crypto itself. But here's the thing: how do you make? Because I don't know the answer to this. I'm just throwing out the big question. Just figuring that you could solve it right now for us, Michael, and the whole industry can move forward. You got to come with your prophetic vision. How are we going to get a workable play-to-earn model that isn't really tedious grinding, and also B doesn't just turn into some sort of play-to-earn dynamic, which, if you think about it, does get to be a bummer. Because on the one hand, I understand how if I've really invested time and money into buying some NFTs and then developing them and so forth. Of course, I want an advantage. But if I'm a newbie coming into the game as well, of course, I don't want to be totally shut out by these people who have all these clear advantages over me. Yeah, so I'll speak to you in a language I think is very clear to you and your users. First of all, I worked for Steve Bannon for about 5 years, and I bought gold myself. But before buying gold in 1996, I bought Stones of Jordan on eBay in Diablo 1 to get an Archangel Staff of the Armageddon. You see in Ultima Online, digital houses being sold. The things that were happening in those worlds. And by the way, Brock Pierce was the co-founder of his gold farming operations, was one of the co-founders of Wax. So we are so well steeped. If you look at OpSkin, I'm not surprised. He's been in a lot of things. Yeah, right. I know, right? Brock, we've talked to Brock a lot. Yeah, he's a character and one of my favorite people. But the point is, this is our DNA. This isn't us just coming in kind of like, hey, this is a wave. Let's catch it. Let's be opportunistic. The questions you're asking me are the same questions we're asking ourselves. And so I would tell you, if you look at World of Warcraft, which is the example I bring up all the time, because I was a kind of an 8-year World of Warcraft player, and every time I quit, my friends were the ones who ran Blizzard. They'd send me Wrath of the Lich King. They'd send me Burning Crusade. Just like when I thought I got out, they pull me back in because I keep trying to quit WoW all the goddamn time. Right. Because I look at that time in game button, I'm like, oh my God, what do I have to show for this? Nothing but memories and some friendships that may or may not last, right? And I was the Guild Enchanter, so they needed me. So there's social pressure and all these things. And, I was the best, kind of DPS, kind of, bruiser DPS was my role there. I was not really an off tank, but that's who I am. That's what I was. But I looked at World of Warcraft. I said, I have nothing to show for my time. But I have tons of things that I own, tons of things that I possess, tons of things that have dropped for me, tons of things I have crafted, tons of things I have accumulated. And I bought gold because my time was more valuable than running those 25 daily quests. So this is very much who we are and how we think about the world. So now imagine that, WoW was on the blockchain, was Web3, and you owned everything that you acquired. Like
It's play and own. It's not play to earn. Earn,
Sure.
people are going to stop using that term earn very, very soon, because I'm never going to speak about play to earn ever again. I'm only going to refer to it as play and own or play to own.
Do I think it's slightly different positioning though? Because people are looking for ways to create passive income out of investing either in your utility token early.
It's the wrong perspective. It's the wrong perspective. Without fail, it's the wrong perspective. And those players are going to get converted, because what happens is that you saw with World of Warcraft, the amount of years you played, you didn't play it to make any money, but that would have been the result, right? Making money is never a goal. It's a result.
Sure.
And
And then of course,
think about it in that regard, then that will change your whole perspective. You need to get people to invest in a game because they care about community. They care about what they're earning, or what they're accumulating. They care about what they're doing. And that ROI will come in time. But if that's the main focus, then you're wrong. If the first thing somebody says to me is, how much can I make? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you should go do DeFi mining, or maybe you should go play this game or go play that game, because we're not going to focus on what you're going to earn in this game. It's going to be there, but that's not the headline for us. And that pisses off people.
When you play, I've just watched, I like playthrough video. I watch playthrough videos of games I've never played. So I was watching all of Red Dead Redemption 2 recently to get all the many. Oh my God, all the writing is so solid in that game. But you can understand how, although it's kind of funky logic, you can understand how, after having gone on kind of this epic mammoth journey with all these different moving parts, even just to get through the game, people feel like they put forward some effort. And of course, they have. So they want to get some sort of return on it. You're talking a little bit about community. You're talking a little bit about earning back. How are people earning back, and how do you contextualize the play to earn aspect, although you keep saying play to keep, in something that is maybe adapted somewhat to the new bearish market that we are in? The heady days of summer from last year are gone, I'm afraid, probably for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, again, look, this is going to be not a very popular answer, but I actually, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't care. What is powerful to me is the Web3 model of I get to own something outright. It doesn't really matter what the price of WAXP is. It doesn't matter what the price of Ethereum is. It doesn't matter what the price of Bitcoin is. What matters to me is I played a game, and here's the key. Am I allowed to monetize my engagement? Right? So my free time is far and away the most valuable thing I have in my life, because it's capped. And Father Time is undefeated. So if I choose to spend my most valuable commodity with your product, or with you as an individual, or with whatever, I want the validation for my time. I want the recognition of my time, because this is a choice that I make. Don't waste my free time. It's too valuable. You can always make more money and all that stuff, but time is finite.
You've got a pretty active Discord.
Validating people's use of time, and what they've accumulated is a result of their engagement, not a result of
So how are you getting your audience to turn the corner? Your Discord audience in particularly, which is going to tend to be, at least if you like most of the other games I've spoken to, is going to tend toward the speculators, people that are looking to 1,000 times their money or whatever. And it's a bad week for them. It's the wrong month for them. They need to come back in 2021. What do you do to try and pivot that conversation from being some sort of degen, hedge farming conversation to being a gaming conversation?
You know what? Look, I'll tell you that I think that 98% of our Discord audience is exactly who you say they are. We don't have any misgivings about that at all. And we also don't try to tell them it's okay, everything's fine. We're very much kind of open and candid and realistic. What we try to say is, we feel your pain, we hear you, we show you we hear you by building in things into the game that you've asked for. As an example, just today, 3 hours ago, we massively reduced a token utility that was at a certain price. We dropped the price by 98% because they said, we really want to do this. It really has no performative value, but it'd be nice to have. We literally cut it by 98% today across the board for everything. Wow, you listened to us. Right, we listened to you. It doesn't help the price of Bitcoin, but the fact that we're here and we're empathetic and sympathetic, that matters. And what we say is, please be patient with us. We're very consistent in our messaging, right? Please be patient with us. At some point, this will turn the corner on being a very fun to play game. What we have now is this, and know that this is what this is. Here is the roadmap. We're going to deliver against that roadmap. If you like these things, great. If you don't, tell us. Again, we will listen to you. We look at analytics, but we also take anecdotal and evidence into account, not just empirical. So it's about being there. It's about being present. And you'll find I'm the head of WAX Studios. I'm the CGO, but yet I'm in Discord probably 2 hours a day, just being present, being visible, and letting them know that I'm here. And that's something that I don't have to do, but I want to set the tone. right? Because I do care. Like every game that I've done in my career that has been wildly successful has been because I've over-indexed on engaging with the community. Like in one of the first Madden I shipped, I literally put my email address. I got 500,000 emails the first 90 days that game came out. And I answered every single one of them. It was all cut and paste answers because there's only 10 questions they asked. And it got so I could just go like this. Like every day I would crank through it. People said, you're crazy to do that, but I cared, right? You know, every time you err on the side of doing things that are beneficial to the audience, maybe it hurts your optimization, your bottom line a little bit. And you still over-index on performance. You over-index on goodwill. You over-index on all these things that shows that you care, and you're not just some other random person trying to, you know, do a cash grab and then ultimately lead to a rug pull. That's not what we're about. And we show that through our actions, not just our words.
So I've seen a few games that will keep the wallet integration, you know, kind of on the back end, so people can just sort of log it in a Web 2.0 kind of way. They don't have to.
Interlands is a good example of that, I know.
And I appreciate that, because conceptually, what is the Trojan horse to bring more people into Web3 if not video games? Maybe adult content. I don't know what else to do. But
you hit the nail on the head about 8 minutes ago. You said, what is that great game that's going to come in? Like, what is going to happen at some point, right? And we know it's not going to come from the traditional publishers, because it never comes from them. When you have these business model shifts, like you can look at social gaming, you can look at free to play, look at all these things. It wasn't led by EA. It wasn't led by Tencent. It wasn't led by Midway. It wasn't led by Warner. It was Zynga. It was Supercell. It was King. It was Scopely. It was all these groups that were native mobile, right? And they're the ones who said, we'll take those hundreds of billions of dollars that you don't know how to kind of capture. Right. We'll have a singular focus. Wax is that company. And so the thing that we've always said is we have to build games that are objectively great. We have to, again, going back to your free time, if you're going to spend your free time with us, it has to be better experience than what you're doing already. We have to give you a different reason and a better reason. So what's going to happen is people are going to build unbelievably fun to play games that just happen to take advantage of the blockchain at some point. Right now, the need is this blockchain game. It should be this great game. And oh, by the way, you own all your stuff. Like blockchain shouldn't even be mentioned. It should be all about ownership, right? And this game is just unbelievably fun to play. And you said, you know, what are games that we see? There's one game in particular. Well, there's actually a bunch of games in particular we like, but one that really kind of, I think, speaks volumes about the play and own. You talked about the wallets on the back end. There's a game called Metropolis Origins. It's built by a guy named Graham Devine, and his group is called QXR Studios. And Metropolis Origins is a collectible or tradable card game, but it's done in this really cool kind of, you know, noir art style. And if you know anything about Graham Devine, he's 30 plus years. He built 7th Guest and 11th Hour, or 7th Hour and 11th Guest. I always get confused. He did Quake 3 Arena. Like, he's got this gameology that is just like, he is a Hall of Fame game developer. And he's building on Wax right now. And if you go look at the assets, you go, holy cow, where did this come from? It's collections, it's narrative, it's mythology, it's community, it's PvP, it's real games, it's decks, it's collecting, it's earning, it's owning, it's building. It's all these unbelievable things. Like, that is something to pay real attention to. And they're gonna kind of turn on the jet, so to speak, kind of November, December of this year. But we've seen things that are active in development. That gameplay experience you're looking for is not that far away. We hope that blockchain Brawlers is very much that as well. When the PvP comes out later this summer and you see all these things that surround that, they're like, oh, I wish I knew you were going to build that. Like, we were telling you we're building it, but we have to we have to show you we're building it before you believe us.
So how can all of our viewers out there who are, you know, I try to speak to a crossover audience as much as possible. So people who are maybe very web, very gamer, only like a little bit blockchain, maybe only like a little bit NFT. What's the easiest way, Michael? How do they get involved? How can we test out this system without having to, you know, we're gonna have to go through this process and you know, go through the whole ID process in order to be verified, to open up our wallet on Wax and so forth. There's some friction there. I've always been worried for the play to earn dynamic in general, that friction in itself is going to be enough to keep a lot of people away. Yeah,
look, it's a great question. It's one I would tell you to tell your viewers, or if you're there watching right now, like, use your same instincts. Use your, well, you know, if you're watching now, if they're going to watch later in the future, like a month or two, like down there. I just mean, like, this is what I know. Like, you know, you have this process that you choose to engage with, right? You're looking at gameplay trailers, you're reading reviews, you're looking at charts. There's all things you look at to decide if you want to consume. And right now, you know, people have been trained like, oh, read the white paper and read the tokenomics report. That doesn't really tell you much. Like, I will tell you the games I've seen in development, Kind of starting back kind of the first year when we started really looking at third-party developed games, and then GDC and all these means that we're taking. Like there are real AAA game developers in the space that are going to market and promote and sell their content like they always do. So the things you apply to that decision-making on console or on kind of browser-based games like, Fortnite or League of Legends, like those same kind of, assets and content and promotional materials are coming to Web3 gaming. So just look for those things, trust your instincts. If you've never heard of the team, if they don't tell you who they are, if they don't tell you what they've done, if there's not real gameplay trailers, if there's not things that compel you, don't go there. Like ask the same hard questions you ask of your console content. Like to just don't go and buy it blind. Like do your homework.
Well, that's kind of good advice in terms of picking out a game, but how do they get started with you first and foremost? What's the best way they can jump on board with this game right now? What's the best level? What's the time to do it?
Golly, if you'd asked me yesterday, I would have told you we're having a pack sale this morning at 10 a.m. and we're going to sell 5,000 packs, and it's a great starter price point and all these wonderful things. But those 5,000 starter packs sold out in 50 seconds.
How much do they go for?
What's that?
How much do they go for?
Well, they were retail at $50, and now they're on the secondary market. Now, the nice thing is on the secondary market, they're priced between $40 and $60. So if you want to go to Atomic Hub, go to Nifty Blocks, those are sort of more popular where you can buy wax assets. It's called an artifact pack. And an artifact pack is a great way to get started with blockchain brawlers. It's a great way to get started with blockchain gaming in general. It's a great way to get started with kind of Web3 experiences that play the game, come join our community. We have a great active Discord channel, one of the best communities in the world, in my opinion. It's very intentional. It's very well intended. There's not a lot of toxicity that exists. There's super helpful folks. There's a lot of camaraderie. We talk about a lot of different projects. It's just a wonderful kind of family atmosphere that we curate in there. And yet we tolerate kind of dissenting views, right? We tolerate people who are unhappy, and
which not many NFT projects do, to be completely honest, especially right now, I imagine.
Yeah, it's real easy for people to say, you lost me money. Oh, banhammer. Right? We don't do that. Like, well, okay, we lost you money. All right. Well, did you sell it less than you paid for? Well, no. Well, then did you lose money? Well, no, I didn't lose money. Well, I'm not making as much money as quickly. Like, okay, well, that's not losing money. Like, well, what was my ROI was 10 days and now it's 30 days. Goddamn. It's like, well, okay. What other investment vehicle do you have that gets you all your money back and you still have your assets in 30 days? Well, none, but that's not the point. It was 10 and now it's 30. I'm like, I can't help that. Like, that's just, we're trying to build a gaming experience. We're not trying to build a get rich quick scheme for you and your cadre of friends. Like, we're trying to build a really wonderful, enjoyable kind of place to come in and interact. And so we embrace this discourse with curiosity, not like, oh, we're being attacked and we need to attack back. So now sometimes the attacks get personal and we let people know, like, you're kind of on thin ice, and please, keep it constructive. I mean, you can be critical, but don't make personal attacks. Like, that doesn't help anybody.
Okay. So, yeah, that makes sense. By the way, since I did ask them and they did respond, Manus said that they've enjoyed the the P2E aspects and has been talking to the team in Discord. Mimunga makes a point. Where should people be able to follow to catch up more about you? You want them to go to your Twitter account in order to start? Where's the best place they should start learning?
Look, I always tell people, if you're interested in Wax in general, Wax has a great Discord account. It's really, really popular. And we talk about all the kind of the Wax seal of approval games, which is a nice kind of catch-all. You won't see us include a game channel in the Wax Discord unless it's a project that we vetted that we really, really believe in. But I will selfishly ask you to come into the Blockchain Brawlers community and channel and learn about what we do, and really, like, use your voice. You like something, tell us. You don't like something, tell us. Like, you have questions about something, tell us. We have really kind of in-depth articles, and we have a lot of kind of, documentation. We put out a monthly content calendar, this blog post, that interview, this AMA, whatever. And so we're very engaged that way. But I would selfishly ask you to come into Blockchain Brawlers initially. But if you want to just go and get an education on blockchain in general, all the varied experiences, because maybe a mining-based game themed around wrestling isn't your jam, right? Maybe you want to do kind of a trading card game, so Metropolis Origins, or you want to do a really cool kind of colonized Mars game, Million on Mars. Again, it's through the Wax Discord you can find it. Like, it's a great kind of one-stop shop, if you will, for a whole variety of experiences that we very much believe in. You won't find these rugged quality, sketchy projects exist in our kind of main channel.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I mean, Michael helped me out today because there was another project that originally I had to shuffle some schedules, and Michael agreed to jump in today. And you all may have noticed that I did not constrain the show to a half an hour because it's the web. Unless Benzinga lets me know that they care, I think that we're fine. I figured rather than take it over onto Twitter Spaces, we would just keep talking here. So if y'all have any more question,
fire away.
Any questions, please fire away. We'll take a few more minutes. So Luke, I think Luke is asking, essentially like how people should buy in, like what's the token? This is all based on wax. That's effectively your utility token here. And explain the distinction to me about play to earn versus play to own, because I think it's an important distinction. Play to own actually sets expectations in a more realistic place in some ways.
It does. I think that play to earn was a label that got maybe unfairly slapped onto projects, and because they were a gamification of DeFi, that felt like, oh, it makes sense. I want to earn. Okay, it's sexy and it's exciting. And at one point, I think play to earn had this very positive connotation. When you see how Axie performed, Farmers World, Alien World, some of these games that really made people a significant amount of money relative to what they were used to, whether it was supplemental income or it was actually their lone source of income. Like you could make a living if you caught lightning in a bottle, right? And nobody really thought about when things are going super well, nobody thinks about what are the kind of potential bad habits or bad behaviors that we are kind of leaning into. Like as an example, we nerfed one of our characters who was really like a 5-day ROI. And when he was making that tons of money for players those first kind of 3 weeks when we let it run kind of unabated, nobody said, this is terrible. Nobody said, stop this. You're going to kill the game. They said, oh, this is the best thing ever. And then as soon as we nerfed it, they're like, this is awful. Actually, we're saving the game like forever. But when it was unhealthy, you didn't say anything. So when play to earn was working well for everybody, nobody said this is terrible to call it this. Like play and own is what it is, and it's what it should be. And it's how it should be thought about. I will only reference play to earn in the past of that's what we used to call it. From now on, it's play to own or play and own. I think they're the same thing, but play and own is really that's the desire. That's where this is going. That's where we're going to win. As a player, if I own all my stuff and I can do with it whatever I want, and I can quit the game and give it all to my friends, or I can sell it, that kind of freedom is so powerful. There won't be a game that comes out 3 or 4 years from now that does not have that aspect of it in the game, and I believe that, and that's what compels me.
There's one aspect of play to own that you haven't addressed. Sorry, go ahead. Let me finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say that's Wax's charge, is to make sure that play and own is the way every single game going forward gets made. There's a play and own aspect in there somewhere. It may be way in the back, but it's there, and it gives that player that utility and that freedom. And if we can be part of that, kind of that march up Mount Everest, and we're building that North Star or helping build that North Star or informing the players, that's what really gets us out of bed every morning early and keeps us up late at night. We're so compelled by, giving that to the players. Like that's a meaningful cause that is greater than our own personal success, is bringing that to the players.
Something I think to players definitely want, just because I've seen it play out myself, and you get very invested in online community. City of Heroes comes to mind because I'm making a successor game.
City of Heroes. I love it. I love it for exactly what it was.
And until they brought back kind of the emulator over the past couple of years, which apparently they have ignored. Did you
play it on the emulator?
I have, yeah. I mean, and it runs well. It runs well.
Do they hold up?
That they had somebody on the inside help get the actual code. I suspect that's conjecture on my part, but this wasn't done by just anybody. They managed to get it away from NCSoft. NCSoft to decide not to squish it. But for those who aren't Gen Xers or old enough to know what I'm talking about, there were a bunch of players so sad about the ending of that community when they killed City of Heroes. I mean, years and years later, people don't want to lose when they've created their own characters. They created their own kind of world building. They don't want to lose that. But yet when I get really nervous looking at these NFT marketplaces that have 3D realistically rendered props and stuff. And they say it's portable between games. or portable within the metaverse. And I think to myself, isn't that nice? It's portable. Like if I drew a picture of a shoe, it's portable because you could you can technically recreate it in anything you want if you want to call that portable. But in the meantime, from what we've seen, even the major game labels themselves don't manage to make objects that are portable in between their major titles. So like, do you have any kind of plan to address that, to make NFTs are supposed to be platform agnostic, but games are kind of a different matter.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think that's the great myth. People like, oh, interoperability, it's going to be amazing, and take it from this metaverse to that metaverse and this game to that game, and it's going to be incredible. It's actually not going to be incredible, right? Like people say they want it. I don't know that they do. Like when I have a gaming asset that I really emotionally identify with, it's because it performs well in this given set of circumstances, right? I've got this gun, I've got this armor, I've got this, spell casting ability, whatever that is. And that doesn't always map over one-to-one to all these different worlds. Now, you can say in the metaverse,
I would bring it all over to Sims 4 if I could. I still love Sims 4. And I'm about to come out with Sims 5. But give me my Knights of the Old Republic shit over in Sims 4. That'd be great.
Not to shame my friends at EA, but you feel like Sims is a natural for NFT-based initiatives. And I talked to the head of the
They're already so good at taking our money. They should be amazing at this.
I asked the head of the Sims studio, I said, you should build Sims on Wax and we can help you. And they're like, our community hates NFTs, therefore we're not going to do it. We're so afraid of making them pissed off. I'm like, you should educate them, not
they'll change their minds.
Like, it's echo unfriendly. It's actually Wax blockchain is so carbon negative, it's not even funny. We like for these 20 million transactions a day times 365, our chain generates as much electricity as does 5 Americans a year. Like it's so carbon negative. It's so not bad for the environment. Plus, we plant a ton of trees. There's so many offsets we have. Like we're such an eco-friendly chain. And so that's their first knee jerk of, oh, we can't do it. Then the next is, well, we don't know how the model works. Like, well, let us help you with the model. Like, but they're so afraid of pissing people off. And that's the thing, right? Because business model changes are extinction events for companies. That's why they don't opt into free to play. Like they didn't get free to play. They're like, wait a minute, millions of dollars in development, no pre-sales, no friction returning something to retail, getting a refund on your credit card. 1% of your audience pays you a quarter at a time or 49 cents. That'll never work. Like they couldn't wrap their head around it. Just and we're seeing the exact same thing with NFTs. Like they can't wrap their head around NFT utility and allowing players to own things where they're not always selling at retail all the time. It's like, look, it's like a work of art. If you have provenance and chain of title, you can get a piece of every single sale in perpetuity. Like that's going to scale way harder than selling somebody an asset that has no value in a year or two. Then that's dead. So there's all this friction around EA and the Sims and kind of big brands opting into NFT gaming. And what it's going to take is it's going to take a Scopely or a Supercell, or in our case, a Wax, leading the way. This is how play and own gaming works. This is how the assets work. This is how the business model works. And look at us making all this money. But most importantly, look at the community sentiment that we're building, customer sentiment we're building, where they get to own all their stuff. There's a ton of goodwill there.
Are you guys ready to take over projects? Are you ready to take over projects to support the developers coming over from Terra Network? Are you ready?
I want to finish that thought really quickly on the NFT. So if you buy an Artifact tennis shoe, let's just say from Nike and Artifact, right? Like maybe that has value because they're in this aesthetic and it's a bit of a flex, just like a PFP. A PFP can go anywhere. It can go onto Twitter. It can go onto all your different accounts. So that's interoperability that works for people because it's a status symbol. So maybe there's some aesthetic component, but in terms of utility tied to an asset, beyond vanity, I don't exactly know how that works. It doesn't mean that it won't work. It just means that somebody will try to solve that problem. I'm not going to put any energy into solving that because I actually don't think that players want it. Because I think you can have it, and it's a box that you check. It actually doesn't provide better value or better. I mean, I guess maybe one racing game and you take a car across all racing games. I mean, maybe, but physics model matter, interfaces matter. Like, I don't know.
Just because it's impossible and they might not actually want it is not going to stop the gaming audience from asking for it, Michael.
Of course.
It's one of the hallmarks of the gaming audience. It doesn't have to be reasonable. You've been awesome. Do you want to leave us with any last thought? I guess we'll just kind of wrap it up here since we're hitting the hour.
No, look, I love the questions that you asked. I had a really good time, so thank you for having me. I love a spirited conversation. We ran long, and it's probably my fault. As 27 years of marriage have taught me, it's probably my fault.
No, it's okay. I just figured rather than drag you over to Twitter Spaces, I figured we just keep doing it here because we didn't have enough time to talk about it ahead of time. And I don't know if anybody else's show is right behind mine. I don't think it is. So I just
love talking gaming. I love answering questions. I love hearing differing opinions because that's how I get better. Is you approach disagreement with curiosity. Oh, tell me. I have strong opinions, but I hold them very weakly. It'll be very easy to move me off of an opinion of something. I very much entertain that. So strong opinions, weakly held, as we say.
Well, you've been great. Thank you so much for being on, Michael. Thank you. It's been great talking to you. Hope we talk to you again soon. We'll have to have Wax back on.
You got it, Justin. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. So that was awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining me as we just decided to make it run an hour because why not? I figured rather than trot over to Twitter. I'm going to do some GameFi projects like interspersed and probably do more market discussions in between because I feel like everybody's pretty, obviously pretty tweaked about the market right now. So we'll try and have more experts come in and talk about it. And that'll be like Monday. And then next Wednesday, I'm going to have Cosmic Champions on, which also is doing a really good looking game. I want to hear more about this GameFi and how Play to Earn is going to win. In the meantime, you guys are all awesome. Thank you for sticking with me. Always awesome to see us, leave the stream with more people than we started. And I hope you have a great weekend. Hopefully by the next time you see me, I will have my hair cut because it's getting all crazy on the sides. Thank you guys. You've been awesome, and you have a good day. We'll talk to you soon.